And third tier of the Bloody Point, continuing the series on Dysterra, revisiting the game after it's been 11 months into early access. We're at the stage now, following our fresh spawn on the newly wiped server, collecting materials for building our base. Building a base is pretty important to do early on because of your limited carrying capacity, and if you get some good stuff, some high tier materials or items, you don't want to lose them if you die. We are on the PvP server, so it is entirely possible to be killed by another player and looted. When you die in this game, your loot drops on the ground in a bag, which you can then recover. You don't have to pick up the individual items, you just loot the whole thing. You will have to re-equip items on your bar, of course, but it's a little better than in some games where you have to pick up every item individually. So I have built in this spot before. I prefer it for a number of reasons. As you'll see in a moment, it has some elevation. It is far from the starting area, but not too far away. It's close to a lot of important POI. It's near several good resources, and it takes advantage of the terrain with these rock formations around it. So as you're playing, the journal will pop up little bits of information relevant to the stage of the game that you're in or the physical location that you're in. It's important, if you haven't played the game, to read this information. Again, be reminded that you can cause some of the related items to appear on the map if they're mobs and whatnot. So here's my building site. I built in the same spot on the last iteration of the wipe, and I saw some activity, but the spot did seem to be optimal. There's another feature of the spot which you'll see later on in the video, which is very helpful. So Dysterra's building system is one of the better, as I've mentioned previously, for these types of games. It's similar to a lot of them, using a radial menu, and you'll be familiar with the individual piece types and shapes, but just the way it works, it's got that something, I don't know what exactly, that really feels good. It works well, it's flexible, its messaging is very crisp in terms of what needs to be done for upgrading, repairing, and so on. And I have to say it's really good. I've seen other reviewers of the game mention the building as something that is done well, so kudos to the developers on that. And the system itself is pretty expansive. You can do quite a lot with the building system, and you will have a certain decent amount of hours just getting to the end of the building progression. I'm building a layout that I do pretty much all the time for the early base. In Dysterra, you can have multiple bases. You, I believe at this stage, are allowed to have 8 building cores, which means you could have 8 different facilities. Your building core dictates a number of things, not just the asset, which allows you to pay maintenance and prevent decay, but it also determines a radius or an area around which you can place structures and have them be connected and powered and prevent decay. There are things you can build which will increase that range, so if you wanted to build a larger base, that's certainly possible. Given some of the asset types and the fact that you can build vehicle garages and can have vehicles of multiple types, you could literally need 3 parking spots, so you could conceivably have a very large base. It is a good system, and it works well, and as I said, congratulations to the developers for executing this
an orbital
in a
supply
good way.
pod has been detected in your vicinity.
So you'll see the pop-up message indicating that a supply pod is going to be dropped right outside the base. This is another reason why I like this spot. You'll literally have materials delivered to your doorstep. Now there's a pro and con, of course, to this kind of thing, because other people will get this indicator and perhaps want to come to this location for the drop pod. The indicator isn't broadcast to the whole server. There is a radius around which you know, you'll
Set
get
a
it.
password on your door to
But
keep
anybody
unwelcome guests
close
from
enough
entering your
will
home.
see it here, or
Hold
people who
and
know
press
that it drops here
interaction
might
key
come here
near the
checking on
door
it.
to set a password.
And if you have a base right next to it, well, you're painting a target on yourself. But it's like I said, a pro and con. The pro is the availability of the resources that can be gotten from these supply drops. This particular one is the type that requires you to hack into it. So it generally has better stuff in it, but that's not always the case. Sometimes it's just regular mundane stuff. As you can see, the building system has the classic, door lock mechanic where you put in a password, and once you enter it, you don't have to enter it every time, and you can of course give it to other people. You can change it and so on. I'm building a traditional airlock, safety first, right? That's pretty standard for this kind of game. The door and the frame of the door are separate assets, so they have different HP amounts, and they're upgraded separately. There are many different ways to do damage to structures in the game. Firearms can do it. There's melee weapons that can do it. There are certain melee weapons that do a large amount of damage. They're specifically designed for destroying structures. There are explosives of different types. So when raiding, there are a great many ways to get into a base. You can also get on top of bases due to the gliding mechanic. That's one of the cons to this particular base location. People can, jump off of the cliffs surrounding the base and get onto the roof. But I have a way for dealing with that, which you will see in a later video. And the system in its entirety gives you a lot of tools for dealing with raids. So there are the obvious ones like airlocks and just upgrading the walls. There's also turrets of different types that you can place. So you have a ballistic turret, which fires just regular ammo. You have an energy turret, which fires a special energy ammo. You have a shotgun turret, and there are different tiers of those turrets. The turrets can be upgraded as well. You have things like electric floors, electric fencing, holographic tiles, so you could conceal, say, your chest room. You can conceal where a turret is. There's all kinds of different tools for raids. It's quite a lot, and it's all done very well. So if you're into that kind of thing, you'll definitely enjoy it. The game, as you can see, the mechanics involve a stability system. So you can't just build like walls out forever horizontally from your foundations or your supporting load-bearing walls. You do need to account for that. There are pillars in the game. There are walls and half walls. There's all kinds of different ways to accommodate your desired design and achieve the needed stability. So that's another thing that they do well. You'll notice that I put windows in some of the walls, but no glass pane in them. The pane of glass is an actual additional asset. It's a separate piece. It's upgraded independently, and quite surprisingly and very coolly, I think, you can open the window. So if you have a window in a wall, you can open it. You can see out, but they can't see in. So if you see somebody outside, you can open the window from the inside, fire out of it, and close it again. Yeah, it's quite cool. So this, as I said, base design is something I pretty much do all the time. It's not always exact. I don't follow a guide or anything. I just do what seems correct, and with repetition it ends up being mostly the same, but there can be differences with the internal walls. The main purpose, of course, of the base is to provide you some security. You can have a spawn inside a secure spawn. You can have multiple spawns. You can put multiple beds down. The beds start out as the basic sleeping bags, and then they upgrade to actual beds, different tiers, and that impacts the respawn timer. So you either want multiple or higher tier ones if you are expecting to die frequently. You can name these assets. You can name everything, actually. Oh, okay, there we go. Here's the orbital drop pod. So I'm going to attempt to hack into it. As mentioned in a previous video, you have to skill up so as to be able to hack items of a particular level. Now I've succeeded. Got a nice weapon. Got some good stuff there, and it's free, right? So it's very good to be having this right outside. It's like Uber loot. Now, the other thing about these is they do come in different types. The ones closer to the shore just have basic materials. They don't require any hacking. Then you have the ones that are that have security and you need to hack them. There's even ones with a turret on top, which can fire on you. So there's all kinds of different variations. I'm going to need to start crafting some storage since I'm full here. I'm going to need a lot of materials to finish out this base, and materials of different rarities. So keeping all that separate is important. As I mentioned, you can name just about everything in the game, including the chests. You can name storage chests to designate what's inside them. You can name the doors. So if you're in a raid, you can easily see what door is which. The central core that you use to do maintenance and a few other functions also has a remote repair function if you upgrade it. So instead of having to go to each individual door or wall that's taken damage and repair it, you can actually do it from the central core itself. And if you label them or name them, then it's a lot easier to see which ones you want to prioritize if you have limited resources. The raiding system does involve a raid timer, so if I'm attacking a base, the owner can't instantly repair it, which is a good and important feature. In survival games that involve bases and raiding, there are some which still get some of these basics wrong, and it's good to see that Dysterra does that in the correct way. So again, kudos. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, I am on the PvP server. The base isn't secure, so I'm not too worried about being raided at this stage due to the population, but in reality, anybody could come along and kill me and take all this stuff. So when you're building a base, you don't always want to do it in this kind of slow and secure manner. You might want to seal off the first floor, and then before you start building upper floors and so on. But I'm not too concerned. I'm in a decent position here to defend if I have to. Now I haven't placed down my respawn, my sleeping bag, which is a mistake. Really, if I were doing this correctly, I would have placed one immediately, either even outside on the ground or inside, even if it wasn't in its final position, because you can pick it up. You can pick up pretty much everything that you put down here. And if I emptied a chest, for example, I could move it. So I should have put a sleeping bag down, but I didn't, and there were no problems with that, but it's something to consider. Now, the location in question here is near a bunch of different bases, points of interest or POI, and the bases are of different types. They're associated in some cases with a particular faction, or in the case of the facilities, they have a specific function. The facilities are related to the server wipe duration, completing it's kind of like a mini dungeon, I suppose, making your way through the facility to the objective and completing it gives you a particular item which you can use to do a positive and negative function of the facility. I'll be showing that in another video, but you can do things like increase healing in a large area around the center of the target, or you can cause a radiation cloud to appear, or you can mitigate healing. You can do all these individual things, and each of them, the positive ones, will add 5 days of lifetime to the server, and the negative ones will remove 5 days. There is a short cooldown, but you could just do it over and over, and really impact the lifetime of the server. These particular control cards are consumed once you use them. They go away. It's a really cool mechanic, I have to say, and it's somewhat unique. It's impressive when you think about it, that you could literally do something as a player that impacts a huge portion of the server, and in the case of the duration change, the entire server. Durations in Dysterra are measured in days, but each day is corresponding to a real-life hour, so it's nice and easy to keep track of. Days involve, in terms of real-life days, they involve rewards. You have daily login rewards. Nothing too crazy. The game does not involve microtransactions of any kind. I don't know if that is going to stay that way post full release, but in early access right now that is the case. There is a shop which uses a specific currency that is earned by doing things in-game. The shop contains mostly cosmetics, but also some items. The items can be unlocked via other means, but you can do them in the shop as well. So for example, if you want a different looking chest for storage, or a different looking light, so it performs the function of something that's available otherwise, but it just might look differently. Some of the lights are actually quite cool. They've really done a lot of good work with those little assets. You can make an environment that looks real, looks lived in, and is aesthetically pleasing. So I'm closing out the first floor and working on the second floor. Given that this is a full-on PvP game, you do have to take security in mind when you're building. Be conscious of the things like the hard side and soft side for walls, something Dysterra does have. It's telegraphed pretty clearly with the indicator when you place it. The outside indicator, you can flip that easily when you're placing it. And visually you can see the texture on the inside of the walls and the outside of the walls is different, so that's really well done. You also wanted to make sure that you have good sight lines for weapons fire if you need to attack from being inside the structure, hence the windows. I also have, as you'll see, the design accounts for that on the roof as well. And then making sure you have good positions for turrets, that the turrets have good lines of sight, and so on. The raiding mechanics are like in most such survival games. You damage the walls with either weapons or explosives, whatever the case would be. It puts the base on a timer where it can't be repaired, and then you can go inside and destroy the chests and whatnot, depending on what your purpose of your raid is. The server activity, again, given that it's early access and there's a low population, it's not very extreme, but I can recall times where raids were quite frequent, and it's a fun battle. When you have lots of people and you have a lot of tools at your disposal, the fight can actually last for a good amount of time, which is fun. Offline raiding is definitely a possibility. There are no raid timers. You can raid at any point. Some people don't like that, but it at least is somewhat realistic. So you just have to make sure that you spend time designing a good base. You can take advantage of the different tools that are given to you to have hidden rooms. Have a loot room, especially using the holographic floors and whatnot. The game gives you a lot of different tools for countering raiding. But yes, once you're offline, you're asleep, your body stays in the world, you can be just raided and killed, and they can take all your stuff. And it's part of this type of game. Not everybody likes full loot PvP games. There's a reason why they have a PvP non-raid version of the server, and also a single player version as well as a PvE version. You do have all these options. If you're choosing to play on this server, you're pretty much opting into that gameplay, so nobody should be complaining. What I'm doing here is, when you build the core inside the base, it has kind of like a lighting effect on it, and if it's close to the wall, it will be seen from the outside. It is possible then for a raider to specifically attack the wall that's flush with your core, and then do damage that way, and it would result in decay and so on and so on. So you got to think about that. That's why I put those extra walls there. This particular base design, like I said, it's very simple, but it's very clean. It's easy to navigate. You have enough room for all of the workstations, and because of its position in this little grove, it's somewhat protected from casual line of sight, and there's room to grow the base outside and even up into the gaps in the individual faces here of this rock formation, so I could block it off. So that's a good look at the starting of the building process. In the next video, we will complete the build and start working on upgrade. This is Dysterra. I hope you're enjoying. Thank you for watching.